Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today I'm going to be doing a Shirley Jackson update, books I've read, books I haven't read, and books I need to reread. So my goal this year was to read all of Shirley Jackson's work that I could get my hands on. I have all the books that I've been able to get my hands on. I'm not sure if I'm missing any. If you know that I am missing any, go ahead and let me know in the comments below, and let's dive in. I've got two left to read for the first time. Raising Demons by Shirley Jackson and Shirley Jackson, The Road Through the Wall. This one is a nonfiction, and I believe it's similar to her Life Among the Savages, which is a memoir style, almost essays of stories of her life on a daily basis with her children and her family, being a wife and things of that nature. So I have that one to read, and then I have this one to read, Shirley Jackson, The Road Through the Wall. I am guessing that this one is another Shirley Jackson strange town sort of feeling, creepiness, another story of that design. I'm very excited to dive into it. I think this was her first book she ever wrote, if I'm not mistaken. So yes, I believe this is her first one. But yeah, so I have to read that. So there's two left to read for the first time. And then I have Shirley Jackson, The Missing Girl, which I read for the first time during the Booktubeathon. It is a short 50-page short story collection of 3 short stories. Creepy, very strange, unnerving is the best word I can come up with for her work in general. I think she's just an unnerving writer. I really enjoyed this though, and I would recommend it if you like Shirley Jackson. It's a good place to start with her work if you're interested in her short stories and are not ready to dive straight into the lottery. I would start with The Lottery if you were going to start with any of her short story collections in general, but if you've heard of The Lottery and it's been spoiled for you, maybe start with a different short story collection, and that one's a good one. Then I've got 2 Not in the Penguin Modern Classic editions. This is We Have Always Lived in a Castle. I listened to this on audio and read it with Amanda Center, whose channel I will link in the cards. This is the story of Meerkat and I want to call her Constance, yes. And Constance, they live in a mansion in a town with their Uncle Julian, and a murder of poisoning took place within this house of a bunch of family members, and they blame Constance for this, but she was found not guilty of the murder. So now these women just live in this house and the town hates them and makes it very clear, and then someone comes to visit and things get strange. Really good. I enjoyed it immensely. This is The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I'll be honest, I will probably reread this again in October around Halloween time, just because I enjoyed it so much as a horror book. I like horror in general. This is not the scariest thing I've ever read, but it is an elementally baseline classic of the horror genre, so I really recommend it if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about horror. This story is about a young woman who goes to stay in a mansion, and she's going with 4 other people, and they're going to see what they find in this mansion, but they're not all aware of the intentions of the man who invited them, and things start to get creepy at night, and a presence is overrunning the 4 of them and ensuing their minds. It's really twisted. I definitely enjoyed it and recommend it. This is The Sundial by Shirley Jackson. This is the story of a family that is living in a house, and the owner of the house, who they thought was dead, shows up and tells them that the world is ending. It's the closest thing to an apocalyptic novel that Shirley Jackson has written. I enjoyed it pretty well. I think I gave it 4 stars. I've given almost all of her books 4 stars, except for a couple of her short story collections, which I gave 3 stars. But in general, I just really like her work. So this one was really interesting and kind of looking at the world through the lens of an ending world. Then we have The Lottery and Other Stories by Shirley Jackson. This is the short story collection I would recommend you start with. There are a couple of different versions of this short story collection with The Lottery in it. I think there are several of her short story collections that you can buy with The Lottery in it, and they may not all be the same short stories. This one is the one I picked, and I enjoyed it pretty well. I would say The Lottery is probably one of my all-time favorite short stories. I think it might be my favorite short story of all time. I definitely enjoyed it. I love that cover. But yeah, so it gets creepy and strange and unnerving and really good. This one is Let Me Tell You by Shirley Jackson. This is a collective work of hers that has essays, short stories, and things of that nature. It talks about her life as a mother, her life as a wife. It's strange, unsettling stories. It has some of her cartoons she drew in it. It's just a very interesting collection, and it was supposed to be kind of her unpublished work from after she died. So I enjoyed it for what it was. It definitely wasn't my favorite of her collections, but I enjoyed it for what it was. And it was put together by, I believe, her great-granddaughter, Sarah Hyman DeWitt. And it is forwarded by Ruth Franklin, who wrote the biography of her that I love so much and that started this whole ordeal. Then we have Shirley Jackson Hangs a Man. This one I loved. This one is about a girl named Natalie who is falling apart mentally. It is really wonderful, unraveling, unnerving, all of those good words that I associate with Shirley Jackson. Upon a second thought, I think I would give it 5 stars. I don't remember if I gave it 4 or 5 stars first time reading it, but it's kind of stuck with me and been in my head for a good amount of time. Really enjoyed it. Definitely would recommend it. It is not where I would start with Shirley Jackson, though. It's just a little more highbrow than her other books and works. So I definitely would say this is one to read after you've gotten into her. But I really would recommend this as a way to kind of finish up the collection of her books. It's good. I really recommend it. It may make it onto my top books of the year list. I'm not sure. It didn't make it onto my top 5, but it might make it onto my top 10. This is Shirley Jackson Dark Tales. I didn't love this collection. This was a 3-star collection for me. Decent stories. I found a couple of them. They were good. But overall, it was a weaker of all the collections that I've read. I felt a little more disconnected and a little more disjointed with this one. I definitely enjoyed some of the stories, but overall it was not a win for me. And then we have Life Among the Savages. This is, I believe this is the second of her nonfictions, and I think I read them out of order. Whoops, my bad. So this is her nonfiction memoir style book of her life as a mother and a wife, and just talking about day-to-day life. It was interesting. I think I gave it 4 stars. I can't remember, but I enjoyed it thoroughly and I would recommend it if you like Shirley Jackson. Her nonfiction is not for someone who's not interested in Shirley Jackson. If you find her work okay, I wouldn't read her nonfiction. I think that it's for somebody who's really into her and really enjoys her writing. And then the book I have to reread this year is The Bird's Nest by Shirley Jackson. This is one of my favorite books of all time. I read it last year and it was not my number 1 book of the year, but it was in my top 5. I really enjoyed this. This is the story of Elizabeth, who is suffering from a mental illness, and something happens because of her mental illness and it changes her life forever. It's really creepy and really weird. It's a good depiction of the mental illness that it discusses. However, the incident that occurs because of the mental illness is not necessarily accurate as a regular occurrence because of that mental illness. So just be aware and forewarned of that. But I definitely enjoyed it. I love Shirley Jackson. I am very excited to read all of her works, and hopefully I've gotten almost all of them. If I'm missing any, again, please let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button down below. I will talk to you in the comments, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!